The final two acts have directly qualified for the grand final of Melodifestivalen 2021. Two more acts will get a second chance in the Andre Chanson round. It's the fourth semi-final of Melodifestivalen 2021. Shall we talk about it? Let's do this.
Do this.
Okay, so tonight we had the fourth and final semi of Melfest 2021. We saw 7 acts competing, but only 4 could go further in the competition. So let's first of all talk about the direct qualifiers. The Mamas, last year's winner, they were one of the 2 direct qualifiers. So Jonathan, what do you think? Can lightning strike twice or thrice even?
I have a sneaky suspicion that it could. I think, out of these 7 acts, the Mamas were always going to be a standout because just from the warmth and the spirit that they bring to the stage. I don't think there's ever been a time where they have performed where I haven't just, felt something in my heart and the smile hasn't beamed out on my face, because they are so wonderful. They are so joyous to watch, and there is definitely a part of me that would love for them to go on and win and, get their rightful chance to compete at Eurovision as the main act following last year's cancellation. I don't know. We'll have to look at the final lineup in depth a bit later on. But in terms of the semi, then yeah, I think this was a definite standout. I liked, the transition in terms of them in the black outfits to begin with, and then revealing into the gold. I thought that was nice. Whether that would work at Eurovision, because a general audience wouldn't have sort of seen their black outfits from last year, so they wouldn't quite get the reference. But yeah, I like the way that they generally how they presented it on stage, and the sort of bit where they stand around facing each other. That did sort of remind me of Bigger Than Us with Michael Rice, the UK entry, and sort of everyone sort of criticized that for them facing inward rather than outward to the camera, and I did maybe feel a bit similar about that, sort of seeing their backs rather than their faces, which would have been nice. But overall, I do like In the Middle. I would say at the moment, I think I prefer Move just at this point. Whether In the Middle will grow on me, we will have to see. I just think that Move grew a bit more towards the end and had a bit more of a climax, whereas In the Middle is a bit more steady going, shall we say. But yeah, overall, I am very happy to see them in the final.
Yeah, it was definitely a standout performance for tonight, and the fact that they qualified, it felt absolutely the right choice. Yeah, their like surprise costume change, that was a real delight. I liked also that they were wearing what they wore last year, so I thought it was just a reminder of, oh hey, remember what happened the last time we wore this? So yeah, it's just a reminder. And then they come in with those gold costumes, and they looked absolutely amazing, just golden goddesses. Yeah, I would say too that In the Middle for me isn't. I really liked Move last year. I like In the Middle, but not as much as Move. I wouldn't say that In the Middle is my favorite song from Melfest this year. Yeah, it is hard to say if they will do as well as they did last year. The grand final this year is shaping up to have a different feel to it. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but yeah, definitely the Mamas were a very satisfying qualifier tonight. And so the other direct qualifier tonight was Erik Saade, Sweden's Eurovision 2011 act. He qualified with his song Every Minute, which is quite different from his Eurovision entry, popular. So, Jonathan, what do you think? Will this be Eric's second time at Eurovision, or will we see a different result?
No, I love a bit of Eric Saade, but I don't know about this song. Um, I think in terms of the semi-final, it was a standout just in terms of production and both the production behind the music and the production in terms of the staging. And I think it was an obvious sort of qualifier and sort of direct qualifier in that sort of sense. In terms of going forward, I don't know. It's the sort of song that I would listen to a couple of times, but I feel like I would then get a bit bored of it because it is relatively samey throughout the whole thing. And yes, the na 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 hook is relatively catchy, but it's not the catchiest thing I've heard in the world. And yeah, I don't know. There's bits of me that really wants to like it, but then there's bits of me that is just holding back. And even in terms of the staging, the sort of sporadic dance moves that he sort of does, I'm not 100% on board with just yet. And it is, it's very dark, and the when the curtain drops and the lights start flashing, that was a bit in terms of strobe effects. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, on the fence a bit about this. Yeah, sort of. I've got good and bad points about it.
Mm. Yeah, it just occurred to me that I would consider it a better performance. Like the staging is better than the song. The song's okay. Musically, it's quite good. Lyrically, I think it's quite weak. Like I've seen comments like it does sound like a teenager talking about how much amazing sexy sex they get. It just sort of has a weird vibe to it. When I was listening to it, the audio at the earlier in the week, it just sounded quite funny, just like it in the morning, yeah. But yeah, it's it's his it's okay. Like, and he gives like one of his biggest strengths is his dancing. He is a really talented dancer, and he is taking full advantage of that. Eric's his white jumper. A lot of people, a lot of viewers from the Commonwealth are looking at that, going, "That's a cricket jersey. Why is he looking like he's off to cricket practice?" But it's a really stylish look, and I think he's working it. So, yeah, he's again, like I'd say with the mum, is an obvious qualifier, and he looked just overjoyed to have qualified. So, um, yeah, I don't know if he's a winner, but he's definitely it's a good performance, and I think a nice sort of step in the evolution of his music. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the two acts who'll get a second chance in next week's Andra Chanson contest. First was Efraim Leo and his song Best of Me. So he's a newcomer. Jonathan, what did you think about his song?
I really like this. This was very much up my street, just sort of that pure pop vibe, and yeah, just fun, upbeat, and having the two backing dancers behind him and everything. I think this will probably be one of my personal sort of like favorites of this year's Melody Festival, and even if it doesn't really advance any much further than Andrew Shanson. But yeah, I was really happy to see him go through. This will definitely be one that I put on my playlists, and yeah, just overall just really like this one.
Mm. Yeah, it is. There is something to be said for just like a pure pop. And I saw comments like, oh, all the teenage girls will be voting for him, but I think he has a lot more appeal than that. It was just, yeah, a really good pop song and really well performed. And he just seems like a really nice young man. Just really good energy. So the other the other act who will be getting a second chance next weekend will be Clara Klingenström with her song Behöver inte dig idag, which means don't need you today. So Jonathan, what did you think about her effort?
I liked it. I think it was nice to have in the mix. It was, something a bit different compared to everything else. Yeah, I think it maybe got slightly lost for me a bit coming just before Eric Saade. But overall, I can't complain with this going further. I don't think. I'm not really sure that it will advance much further than Andra Chansen, but I think in terms of Melfest overall, it was a nice sound and a nice song to have in the mix.
Yeah, I quite liked it. It has a nice sort of uplifting folk pop feel to it. I sort of think it kind of reminds me of the sort of songs that Anna Bergendahl did in her recent entries. Just that almost a little bit of the country tinge to it as well. I sort of think if the lyrics had been in English, there might be more of a sense that it could be like a big, Eurovision hit. Or I don't know, maybe there's just something about it that isn't quite 100% there. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a really nice song. And yeah, I would be happy to see this in the grand final. So with those 4 acts on their way to the final, or one step removed, tonight we also said goodbye to 3 acts who didn't get through. They were Tess Merkel with Good Life, Zovard with Alting are precies likadant, and Sanex with All Inclusive. So Jonathan, what are your thoughts on the 3 non-qualifiers?
So I was a bit disappointed for Tess. I thought this was a really nice opener to the show, and just in terms of music and the song, I personally preferred this to Clara's entry. Although I think out of all the acts in this semi and possibly in this year's contest as well, her voice was very quiet, and you could sort of tell that the backing track was doing most of the work in terms of most of the vocals, really. So that was a bit sort of disappointing to see in terms of a live vocal performance. But I thought in terms of the staging, it was really eye-catching, and I loved the dancers and the sort of flamboyant yellow hats they had and all the lasers and everything. So yeah, I think to be honest, in sort of, I don't know, semi-final 3 maybe, this would have stood a chance, maybe in some of the other semi-finals as well. I think this would have stood a chance of at least making it through to Andra Chansen. So yeah, I was disappointed to see Tess get knocked out. In terms of the other 2, Lovad, I liked it, but I do think the ballad sort of got lost a bit in amongst everything else, sort of, I guess, sadly, sort of maybe down to the performing second sort of thing. It did remind me slightly of some of Molly Sandén's recent sort of softer Swedish language ballads and that sort of thing. So I really liked the emotion that she portrayed, and the way that they told the story, with sort of the dancer sort of being half faded off into the background, but them still doing the same sort of motions. I thought that was a really nice way of telling the story, even if you don't speak Swedish. So yeah, it was nice, but maybe slightly forgettable in amongst everything else. And then finally, Sanex. I did enjoy this. I thought that they might have stood a chance of doing slightly better. I wasn't sure if it was the sort of thing that would sort of have a nostalgic sort of dance band sort of feel for elder generations, but then it was also quite child friendly and fun and upbeat. So I didn't know if they would pick up enough votes to sort of squeeze a bit further, but unfortunately not. Yeah, I do think in terms of that sort of dance band sound, then Arving Arne probably do it better in terms of what we've come across so far in this year's Melodifestivalen. But yeah, it was one that I didn't mind, and I think overall this semi-final has had one of sort of the stronger selections of songs overall in compared to some of the others. And yeah, I think some of these bottom three could have had a chance of moving forward in some of the other semi-finals.
Yeah, I was thinking, that Sanex might be one of the qualifiers, but then when I look at the four top acts, I can't actually think which one would I swap out. Like of the two, Andres Chanson, I think they're both overall gave better performances. But yeah, it was a really fun performance. The lyrics, they were a bit like, it wasn't a comedy song in the sense of like Devet Do, but it was like a fun song, a bit silly, and the music was really good. So yeah, it was, I guess then you're just going to go, well, it was nice to have it in the show tonight. Lovard, I also feel that I think her performance did get a bit lost. It was very quiet, very subtle, and I think you really had to be paying attention to fully to get its impact. And if you were maybe having a mellow watching party with your friends or family, I guess you wouldn't necessarily be paying all that much attention to it. But it was a nice debut for her. And with Tess, I sort of think she might have done better if she performed a bit later on. But also I'm looking at the four qualifiers going, well, who would I swap? It was a nice performance. She's a really good entertainer, but like you said, her vocals weren't at top form. So there were a few flaws that you could look at and go, well, it didn't work because of those reasons. But the way Melfest is, I don't think this is the last we'll be seeing of her. So those are the songs from the fourth semi of Melfest 2021. That's what we thought, but what do you think? Tell us your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a like.
Hit that notification bell as well so you know when all our new videos are coming out. Head over to the website to read all our articles and vote in our polls and find out about all the latest Melodifestivalen news. And yeah, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that jazz.
Okay, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.